reporters in Cleveland have been telling you that Shedeur Sanders struggled. They told you he held the ball too long. They told you he wasn't ready. But today, Mel Kiper Jr. told them to shut up and watch the tape. In a rant, but is already trending #1 on social media, the draft god absolutely torched the Cleveland media. He said, "I am sick of these lazy reporters looking at the box score. I watched every snap. This kid was sabotaged by a prehistoric scheme and a paper-mache offensive line. If he comes out in the draft today, he is still the #1 pick, period." Kiper went even further. He broke down 3 specific plays where Stefanski's design was negligent. I'm going to show you the all-22 angle that Kiper used to prove the offense was broken on purpose. Subscribe and hit the bell right now. If you want to see the proof that Shedeur was set up to fail, click that button. Let's go to the film room. Here's the breakdown that proves the Cleveland media has no idea what they are watching.
Everything about Shedeur Sanders screams he's the quarterback, but if people are going to negative in April, they're going to be negative now because they're going to look, oh, where is he ranked? Forget that. Look at the interceptions that were off of Jerry Jeudy, off of Judkin's shoulder. Batted balls like Burrow had one yesterday, batted in a pick 6. You blaming Burrow for that? No. You're blaming Shedeur for a couple batted balls that were picked off? You shouldn't, okay? So you're going to be fair here. So
the world of NFL reporting is usually a polite game of he said, she said. But every once in a while, the mask slips and we see the raw, ugly truth of how narratives are manufactured. Right now, a civil war is erupting in the heart of Ohio, and it's not between the players on the field. It's between the most legendary draft analyst in history, Mel Kiper Jr., and a Cleveland media machine that seems hell-bent on destroying the career of their own rookie quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, if you thought the drama in Colorado was intense, what's happening in the Browns' locker room and the local press boxes is on an entirely different level. Mel Kiper Jr. isn't just disagreeing with the local reporters, he's calling them out for what he believes was blatant dishonesty. He's accusing them of twisting facts and burying the truth to fit a narrative that Shedeur Sanders is a disappointment. But as we dig deeper into the actual numbers and the circumstances surrounding this season, you begin to realize that the disappointment isn't Shedeur, it's the people paid to cover him. Most people look at a rookie's stats and think they see the whole story, but they're missing the most shocking detail of Shedeur's entry into the league. Imagine being a first-round pick, the supposed future of a franchise.
He's the quarterback, but if people are going to negative in April, they're going to be negative now because they're going to look, oh, where is he ranked? Forget that. Look at the interceptions that were off of Jerry Jeudy.
And being told you won't get a single rep with the starters during training camp. Not one. While every other franchise quarterback in the league was building chemistry with their WR1 and getting their timing right with the offensive line, Shedeur was left to rot on the sidelines. The Browns threw him into the fire without a single first-team rep, and then acted surprised when there were growing pains. Mel Kiper pointed out that this wasn't just a coaching decision. It was a systemic failure. The media, however, remained silent during this period. They didn't question why the team's biggest investment was being treated like a late-round flyer. They waited until the inevitable mistakes happened, then pounced like vultures. It raises the question, was he being prepared for success, or was he being prepared for the bust label before he even took a snap? This leads us to the most infuriating part of the entire Shedeur Sanders saga, the staggering double standard that Mel Kiper is now exposing in the NFL. There are protected players and there are targets. Joe Burrow is a protected player. When Burrow struggles, When he throws multiple interceptions or looks lost in the pocket, the media is quick to find excuses. They blame the offensive line, they blame the play calling, or they cite bad luck from batted balls. But when Shedeur Sanders experiences the exact same things, the narrative shifts instantly. Kiper pointed out a specific moment where Burrow had a pick six off a batted ball, and the media barely blinked. Yet, when Shedeur had a pass tipped off his receiver's shoulder into the hands of a defender, the Cleveland media used it as proof that he can't read a defense. This isn't journalism, it's a hit job. The hypocrisy is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Why is an established veteran given the benefit of the doubt while a rookie, working with half the resources, is held to a standard of perfection that doesn't exist? But to understand why the media is so hostile toward Shedeur, you have to look at their obsession with Dillon Gabriel. Throughout the entire offseason, voices like Jason Lloyd weren't just reporting on the Browns, they were campaigning. They spent months hyping up Gabriel as the sophisticated, competent answer to Cleveland's problems. They praised his ability to get the ball out quickly and not turn it over, essentially painting him as the safe, reliable choice. Meanwhile, Shedeur was treated as a sideshow. The shocking part is that even as Gabriel struggled to adjust and the offense sputtered, the media refused to let go of their darling.
Gabriel will become the first quarterback to make his initial NFL start in one of the international games. Jason Lloyd with his thoughts on Dillon Gabriel.
I actually think Dillon is going to be competent. I don't think he's going to be a star. I don't think he's not throwing for 300 yards or anything like that. But I do think he's going to get them into the right call.
So committed to the idea of Gabriel that when Shedeur finally got his chance and started winning games, they didn't celebrate. They got angry. It's as if Shedeur's success was an insult to their scouting expertise. Jason Lloyd went from being silent about Shedeur's lack of reps to being the loudest critic the moment the young quarterback started showing flashes of greatness. Let's look at the actual tape, because the tape doesn't lie, even if the headlines do. Look at the Raiders game. This was Shedeur's debut, a moment that would break most rookies. He walked into a hostile environment with the weight of the Sanders name and the pressure of a desperate city on his back. What did he do? He threw his first NFL touchdown and put up over 200 yards of poise and precision. He didn't just manage the game, he won it. Alongside Myles Garrett's defensive masterclass, Shedeur showed that he could lead a huddle of grown men. But if you read the papers the next day, you'd think he had barely escaped with his life. The media moved the goalposts immediately. They said the Raiders were weak or that the defense carried him. They refused to give him the W in the column of public opinion, despite it being a winning debut by every objective measure. If the Raiders game was a glimpse, the Titans game was a full-blown revelation. This is the game that Mel Kiper keeps pointing to as the definitive proof that the Cleveland media is lying. Shedeur didn't just play well, he played at an elite level. 4 touchdowns, 364 passing yards. These are the kinds of numbers that make all pro quarterbacks. And he did it all while being essentially self-taught in this specific offensive scheme, having missed out on those crucial training camp reps. He single-handedly dragged the Browns back into a game that should have been a blowout. He was dissecting the Titans' secondary like a 10-year veteran. Yet the local coverage focused on a single turnover or a missed assignment. How do you ignore 364 yards and 4 scores from a rookie? You only do that if you're trying to hide the truth from the fans. There is another factor that the critics always seem to ignore when they're sitting in their warm, heated press boxes: the Cleveland weather. We're talking about late-season games where the wind is whipping off Lake Erie at 30 miles per hour and the temperature is dropping into the teens. This is where dome QBs go to die. But Shedeur Sanders, he thrived. While veterans were clutching their hand warmers and struggling to zip the ball through the wind, Shedeur was making throws that looked like they were in 70-degree weather. He showed the kind of physical toughness and arm talent that you simply can't coach. Mel Kiper emphasized that playing in these brutal conditions is the ultimate litmus test for an AFC North quarterback. If you can do it in the snow in Cleveland, you can do it anywhere. The fact that he excelled in these elements as a rookie should have ended the bust conversation forever. Instead, the media just found a new way to complain. So why is there so much hatred being directed at a kid who is clearly the best option this franchise has had in years? Some call it the prime effect, a lingering resentment toward his father, Deion Sanders, and the flashy, confident brand they bring to the sport. Others call it a lack of journalistic integrity. But whatever you call it, the reality is that Shedeur Sanders is the only hope the Cleveland Browns have right now. The alternatives have failed. The safe choices have crumbled. Mel Kiper is standing alone on an island because he's one of the few people willing to prioritize the facts over the feelings of a bitter local media. He's warning the fans: don't let the negativity blind you to the superstar you have in the pocket. As we look toward the next season, the narrative is only going to get louder. The exposed lies of the media will likely be replaced by new speculations and new rumors. But as Shedeur continues to develop, as he finally gets those first-team reps he was raved off, and as he grows into the NFL game, the truth will become impossible to ignore. He isn't just his father's son. He's a legitimate NFL franchise quarterback who is doing the impossible in one of the most toxic environments in sports. The Cleveland media can keep writing their articles, and Jason Lloyd can keep spitting hatred, but they can't change the scoreboards. And if Mel Kiper is right, which he usually is when it comes to the draft, the very people who are trying to run Shedeur out of town today will be the ones trying to take credit for his success tomorrow. The question remains: will the Browns organization listen to the noise? Or will they listen to the godfather of the draft? If they choose the former, they'll add another name to that infamous jersey of failed quarterbacks. If they choose the latter, they might finally have the man who can lead them to the promised land. But one thing is for sure: the war for the truth about Shedeur Sanders is just getting started. And Mel Kiper Jr. just fired the shot heard round the football world. In the end, we have to ask ourselves why we're so quick to believe the worst about a young player who has done nothing but perform under pressure. Is it because we've been conditioned to expect failure in Cleveland? Or is it because we're uncomfortable with a player who knows exactly how good he is? Whatever the case, the numbers from the Titans and Raiders games don't lie. The brutal weather highlights don't lie. And as Mel Kiper so bluntly put it, the people telling you Shedeur isn't the guy, they're just not telling you the truth. What happened next in the locker room might shock everyone, but for those paying attention, the rise of Shedeur Sanders was always inevitable. The only question is whether Cleveland is brave enough to enjoy the ride. As the off-season approaches, The rumors are already swirling about potential trades or new acquisitions to compete with Shedeur. But after a 364-yard performance, who are you realistically going to bring in that has more upside? The media's lies are starting to catch up with them, and as the fans start to see through the smoke and mirrors, the pressure is shifting. It's no longer on the rookie to prove he belongs. It's on the media to prove they're even relevant anymore. This season wasn't a disappointment for Shedeur Sanders. It was an exposure of the systems designed to hold him back. And if his rookie year was this shocking, without even getting training camp reps, imagine what happens when he actually gets to practice with the starters. The rest of the league should be very, very nervous.